What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. We're taking a look at Monster Hunter World here on the Steam Deck, and this will be the Steam Deck OLED in specific, and I do have 4 gigabytes of VRAM set in the BIOS. Now, this game has gotten some hype. It's actually gotten over 100,000 players at one point this past week at time of making the video, and there's been some talk about Monster Hunter World again, and I thought it was a good time to jump in and check it out. But to my surprise, I had only played through this game on Xbox and never PC, so I actually had to start over and get into making the video, which is actually pretty fun getting through a new playthrough. Now, this is a verified game over on Steam for the Steam Deck, and it does run really well here. Now, as far as the settings go, 800p here. I'll show you the low settings we're running. Full screen for now. 16:9, unfortunately, no 16:10 support in here. Natively here, I'm leaving off the upscaling and fidelity FX for the video. Frame rate 90 for the OLED here. No VSync on, and then low settings with just a couple of changes where I turned TAA back on, I turned motion blur off, and had everything else set here basically for the low preset other than those few changes in here that you can see. And as far as that, getting into it now, on the screen of the Steam Deck, the game looks pretty good and I don't really have any complaints. But if I'm blowing it up here on a bigger screen editing or you know, with the cap card, it's definitely a bit fuzzy and blurry even on higher settings. There's certainly some upscaling, sharpening, different things you could play around with. But that's just kind of the case with the game. But besides that, looks great and runs great here on the Steam Deck. One thing I really like, no matter where I'm at in this game, maybe because it's an older title, I'm also not pushing DirectX 12 or anything here. Frame times are really good. So as we just bounce around between the 60s, 70s, 80s, whatever with these low settings, it feels really great and smooth to play with the nice frame times here and with the 90 hertz screen on the Steam Deck, or even with my cap card or on my monitor. Works really well. And getting into combat, of course, everything feels great also. Now, of course, I am only in the beginning areas of the game, unfortunately, because like I said, I did have to start a new playthrough on PC. I picked this up with the DLC for 20 bucks in the winter sale, actually, for Steam. So a good deal to be able to jump in, start a new playthrough, and do a video here. Now, for those of you that might be playing farther into the game, maybe some different terrain, maybe into Iceborne. If you're playing that on your Steam Deck, hit us up in the comments and let me know what kind of settings and maybe average FPS you're getting as you get farther into the game. But my first 3 hours in, performance has been really good. As we get down here away from like more monsters, away from more foliage, we even get up into the 80s and averaging into the 70s here in this area with these settings. So a really good experience here on the Steam Deck for Monster Hunter World, a game that I really forgot how much I really enjoy playing through. Now, some of the lowest I got here as far as FPS on these settings, and only for a split second, was like 61 FPS, 59 FPS in this kind of heavy foliage area. And that's why I said there's plenty of headroom here for even areas that might get lower. We could lose up to like 20 FPS and stay plenty playable here. But, you know, any of you that might be farther, again, hit us up in the comments, let me know what kind of performance you might be getting. But yeah, overall with these settings, just in my time, the game's running really well. Had a lot of fun with it. Also playing HDR on the Steam Deck OLED here, which we'll take a look at in a few minutes here in the video as well. So really, really good experience overall. And I can see why everybody's jumping back in. I forgot how much fun I really have with this game. But let's get ready to switch over and take a look at like mid settings and see how that's running on the deck, because we can definitely bump things up a little bit. So if I go down through and switch over to mid, I took a couple things off high and put them on mid, left my TAA, but pretty much it's the mid preset with just those couple of changes in there. And we drop 15 FPS here or so. It depends on where you're at in the game. Really, it's certainly not going to run as high of FPS as those low settings, and you could find a happy medium in between that low and mid. I certainly wouldn't want to go up any higher, especially since we're going to have areas out in the real world that could get down lower as far as the FPS. But the game looks really good with the mid settings and upping things a little bit. And if you're someone who's okay with more playing that 30 to 60 or that 40 to 60 range and not really getting to the 60 to 80 or 60 to 85 range with low, then this would work out really well, and it looks really nice also. It just adds a bit more detail. It is a little bit less fuzzy, a little bit more clarity, and it looks nice. So yeah, medium or low or combination, without even introducing Fidelity FX or anything like that, works really well and looks nice here on the Steam Deck also. And a combination of like the HDR and the mid settings look nice as well, which we'll take a look at next. But all in all, what you decide to do here, if you're playing Monster Hunter World on your Steam Deck, be it the OLED or the LCD, you should have a pretty good experience with it. So let's go ahead and switch over real quick. We'll do an overhead view and talk about the HDR a little bit. So I am playing this game in HDR a good bit. So we'll pull up the menu here and we'll be able to see that we are in HDR. And there's a spot inside the game options here that you got to go in, turn HDR on, and then it'll ask you to restart the game if you haven't already. And that's right here in screen mode / HDR setting. That's where you have full screen, borderless, and all of that. You just switch to HDR mode. And it actually looks really good in Monster Hunter World on the Steam Deck OLED. It's definitely my preferred way to play after messing around with it a little bit. Some games I do prefer SDR. As good as the Deck OLED does HDR, PC games just in general sometimes aren't the best when it comes to their HDR representation, so it kind of depends. But I really do like the HDR experience on the Steam Deck OLED. I think it's one of the best HDR experiences as far as like the PC gaming scene goes, because it can be quite rough. In Monster Hunter World, I actually really like the HDR. I think the color pop, the brightness, everything looked really great here. So if you're looking to play another great HDR title on your Steam Deck OLED, Monster Hunter World is one. Alright guys, thanks a lot for coming and check out the video as always. I really appreciate it. I'll see you in the next one.